And then people who are kind of wishing they were in between, that's me. You've got people united together without regard to race or religion. We're all here together celebrating who we are, proud of our differences, but thinking our common humanity and our citizenship in this country matters more. America works best when we are a country of shared prosperity and shared opportunities and shared responsibility. And Hillary wants us to get back to that again. We are a long way from there today. A long way. So the first big challenge is how to restore the middle class dream in America. How to reclaim the future for the young people in this building today. How we can make America what it ought to be for all of our people. And we're a long way from that today. Emily talked about it a little bit, but let's just look, let's compare what's happened in this last 7 years with what happened before. Yeah, I wish it were not much, that's true. But let's talk about it not because we want to go back to the past, but because there's a reason you study history in school. You study history so you'll understand what happened right, what happened wrong. You won't repeat the mistakes of the past, and you'll find a way to reach the future. So in the 1990s, when I had a chance to serve, thanks in no small measure to you in Pennsylvania, we had 22.9 million new jobs. In this decade, only 5 million. In the 1990s, almost 8 million people working their way from poverty up into the middle class. In this decade, 5 million people falling from the middle class back into poverty. In the 1990s, family income, average family income after inflation, going up $7,500 a year across all racial lines. In this decade, family income going down $1,000 after inflation, while the cost of health care doubled, the cost of college education went up 75%, everything else exploded in price. Now even food is going up at more than twice the rate of inflation because of energy prices. And for the first time in 15 years, I hear people telling me that they have to be really careful when they go to the grocery store because they're afraid there won't be enough money left for them to buy their medicine. And so we all cheered today, I think most of us did anyway, when the stock market had a big rebound because the Federal Reserve's trying to head off this housing crisis and a meltdown. They say they don't want us to go into a recession, but the truth is, most Americans think we're already in a recession. Do you agree with that? Because they're broke at the end of every month. They're broke at the end of every month. And the reason is pretty clear. We have gone back to a failed economic theory, trickle-down economics. The idea was, if you just give enough tax cuts and government subsidies to the well-connected and the wealthiest Americans, that somehow it all trickle down to everybody else. And look what happened. In this decade, this is almost impossible to believe, 90% of the economic benefits have gone to the top 10% of income earners. Almost half to the top 1%, and a big percentage of that to the top 1/10 of 1%. This is a middle-class country, full of middle-class dreams. You have to have people able to make a living, educate their kids, buy a house, and pay their bills if you're going to have that. And you have to always be moving in the future. So, the first thing we need in a president is somebody who will restore the middle-class dream, not just for the people in the middle class, but to give poor people a chance to work their way into it. That's what people getting up and going every day, believing that tomorrow can be better. And someone who will invest in the future, in science and technology, to bring jobs back to every part of America. And you know you've lived with the consequences of not having that happen here. So my first case for her is that Hillary has the best ideas to rebuild the middle class and reclaim the future for the young people of America by giving us that different. Emily mentioned some of them, but let me just run through what the elements are. First, we have to create jobs again. This country is not creating enough jobs. And Hillary has a very good plan. First of all, to take $50 billion in subsidies and tax cuts given only special interest groups like the old energy economy and put it into a new fund, a strategic energy fund, to do the only thing that is creating jobs in every rich country in America, in the world, to do it here. Make America energy independent with clean energy and energy efficiency, and you can create jobs in every community in America. Let me just give you an example. I do this in my current life now when I'm not campaigning for Hillary. I run my foundation. I work all over the world, and I can tell you that the wealthy countries that are doing well, creating jobs, raising incomes, where you don't have this increase in inequality, every one of them just is doing one thing we're not. They're making a serious commitment to energy independence through clean energy and energy efficiency. Because if you think about it, it's the only thing you can do that has to create jobs in every small town, every rural area, every suburb, and every big city in America, and in every other country. And I do this work around the world. We're creating hundreds of jobs in New York City right now. My foundation is working with them on their housing authority. We're going to cut their utility bill from $500 million a year to $350 million a year. That's real money. Okay, what does that mean? That means you're reducing the threat of global warming, right? Less greenhouse gases. You're giving clean power back to the utility. You're cutting the bill to the New York City Public Housing Authority, $150 million a year, which they can then put into helping poor people in their housing there. And you're creating hundreds of jobs doing it. This is what her plan will do. Look at Johnstown. You can do this everywhere. We could close every landfill in America and use the stuff in the landfill to generate electricity. Put it into the grid and make America more energy independent. Think about that. You can do it in every place. In every part of rural Pennsylvania, you can create biofuels. You don't have to grow corn to do this. You take the leavings of every farm crop, the leavings of every timber stand. You can grow grass. You can grow fast-growing little trees, and you can do this. Under her plan, we would invest in accelerating the development of hybrid electric cars that will get 100 miles to the gallon. And let me explain what that would mean for you. How many of you worried about what it costs you to go back and forth to work because gasoline's so high, right? Gasoline got over $4 a gallon in Northern California last week. Over $4. Now, you should know this. There are 12 of your fellow Americans today driving test vehicles that get 100 miles a gallon. And here's how it works. Anybody got a hybrid car here? Okay, so you know how it works. Those who raise your hand. A hybrid vehicle runs on electricity, on a battery, to about 25 miles a gallon. Then it kicks over into gasoline. And it runs on gasoline. When you drive faster and you go back below 25, it goes back on the battery. And it guarantees you more or less 40 miles a gallon in town. Sometimes you can get up to 50. If that battery would run the car all day long without having to be recharged to 55 miles an hour, that's 100 miles a gallon. Because you're only going to drive over 55 for a little while. Unless you're on the highway, that's not. But the point is, in town, it's 100 miles a gallon. Now, once you get a car that runs 100 miles a gallon, you can say to all those oil exporting countries,